Alright, this topic is called graphing a line given the equation in standard form. It's just slightly different than graphing a line from the slope-intercept form. It's just that they don't spoon feed us, so to speak. They give us an equation where the x's and y's are anywhere they want to put them. And our goal basically is to get the equation so that we see y equals mx plus b. So we would have a number here and we have a number here. I guess the basic, most common way of thinking of what you're doing is you're going to take the equation they give you and solve it for y. So might as well get used to hearing that. Solve it for y. Once you have it solved for y, you can get your slope, you can get your y-intercept, and like I showed in the other video, it's real easy to graph a line from that point. The ALEKS software may ask you or suggest that you plug in random variables or random values for x and then get a y out of it and then plot all those points together. That seems like it's a lot more work. It's not really honing your algebraic skills to where you need them to be, whereas solving for y gets you used to manipulating something even if it's kind of ugly. And to me that can help wear down any fear or intimidation that you might feel because you're just undoing things. So enough chit chat. Let's get down to it and see what the heck what I'm talking about. Alright, so let's say that we have an equation 4x minus 3y equals 3. Looking at this equation, it tells us nothing. We don't know the slope, we don't know our y-intercept, we don't know anything. We just have this bunch of letters and numbers. So what we want to do is solve it for y. That means that we want to try to get the y all by itself. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this entire 4x term. And since it's on the left-hand side of the equation, to bring it over to the right, we need it to disappear. Well, how do we get 4x to disappear? We subtract 4x. Think about it. 4x, take away 4x, gives us 0 x's. Cool. There's just your golden rule. What you do to one side of the equation, you gotta do to the other side of the equation. Now, it's real tempting at this point to think about, oh, 3 take away 4x, that's negative 1x. Don't do it. Don't do it. Fight it. Don't let that happen. The 3 does not have an x, the 4 does. You can't combine those. They're not like terms. So let's rewrite and see what we have. Our negative sign is married to the 3 here. So it's negative 3y equals. And we just have to write this out in all its ugly glory just the way it is. It may not feel good, but after you do a few of them, you'll get a little bit more used to it. Okay, we almost have that y all by itself. We have to get rid of the negative 3 in front of it. What's the negative 3 doing to the y? It's multiplying. How do we undo the multiplication? The opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide what I call every term. This is a term we're dividing by it. This is a term we're dividing by it. And this is a term we're dividing by it. And again, writing it down, making yourself put down the step is really helpful because on our next step, we have to have what I call good housekeeping. We have to watch out our negative signs. We want to make sure that we're reducing if we need to. So taking your time and writing it out will really slow yourself down, but better than that, it'll make you more efficient and accurate. Alright, so these guys have reduced to 1, which is great. So that gives us our y. We have our equal sign. What is 3 divided by negative 3? Well, that's just negative 1. Now our next whole bunch here, this whole term, notice we have a negative 4x minus 3. That's a negative divided by a negative. When we have a negative divided by a negative, it turns into a positive. The 4 and the 3 cannot reduce, so we are just going to leave it as 4/3 x. Alright, so we're pretty much in the slope-intercept form like I showed up above. Just that it's flipped around. We actually have y equals, if you care, y equals b plus mx. I'm just pointing that out because I want you to be able to recognize our slope and our y-intercept. So our slope is negative 1, and if you followed the last video that I talked about on this, that's our starting point. We're going to find negative 1 on the y-axis and plot that. And now we just need to take a look at our slope, which is m. And the 4 on the top is going to tell us to go up 4 units. The number on the bottom is a 3 and it's positive, so we need to go right 3 units. So we go back to our negative 1 that we plotted and we follow these directions to plot our second point. So we go to negative 1, we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and right 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to put another dot. And there we go. And we would take our ruler and connect those 2 dots, and we have a wonderful line. It's graphed. It was originally given to us in standard form. This is our slope-intercept form. Also, like you'll see, standardized tests will be like solve for y, and that's the same deal. You're just putting it into a slope-intercept form. They like to use a lot of fancy names for things, but don't let it scare you. All right. All right, let's try a second example of this. All right, let's try 5x plus 2y equals 2. Again, it might just say graph. It might not tell you anything else. Graph. So if you're going to be graphing a line, it's always your best bet to put into slope-intercept form. So you want to solve this sucker for y. Solve for y. And if you can get used to solving for y, you'll use that. That'll be a tool that you'll use to get you to do a lot of different things in algebra. So again, some parts of it look ugly. They feel kind of gross at first till you get used to them. All right, so we have 5x plus 2y equals 2. We're going to leave the 2y where it is, and we're going to get rid of the 5x. So I'm just going to recopy it because I like to keep everything neat. All right, so to get rid of the 5x, we subtract it from this side because 5x, take away 5x, gives us 0 x's. Remember, we go over here, do it on the other side of the equation. And this is the part where you have to steel yourself for some ugliness. When you go to rewrite your right-hand side, do not combine those. They have to stay separate. One has an x, one does not, so they're not like terms. Great. Next step, actually almost the last step before we start graphing, is we need to get rid of the 2 that's in front of the y. That 2 is multiplying, so what do? We divide. And again, write it out neatly so that on your next rewrite, you can just analyze each fraction. Alright, so these guys are canceled. So we have y equals 2 divided by 2, that gives us 1. And now in this guy here, we have a minus 5x over 2. We don't have any negatives canceling it out, so it's just going to be minus 2x or 5x over 2, either way. From this point, you got to pull out your knowledge of which one is your slope and which one's your y-intercept. This guy here is your slope. This guy here is your y-intercept, also called your b-value. What do? We start with our b-value. Find that on your y-axis and put your first dot. And then I'm going to do a little slope right out over here. Remember that negative sign is attached to the slope. That's so important. So just as a little slope analysis, eventually you might not need to write out all these little details, but until you get really, really good at it, I want you to write them out because it just helps you keep track of things better. The negative 5 on top tells us to go down 5. Because the top number is up or down. The bottom number tells us to go right or left. Since the 2 is positive, we are going to go right 2 units. So now we have our directions. Go back to that point we plotted, and we're going to go down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and right 2, 1, 2. Plot that point. Get your handy dandy ruler out, which I do not have handy, but is not a good excuse. And there you go. You graphed a line. It started out with no information. We manipulated the equation around until it gave us everything we needed, specifically the slope and the y-intercept. Use those things to plot the line, and we are done. All right, last one. I want you to try this one. Write it down, and then hit the pause button and go through it. Again, see if you can get that solved for y and see where you end up with it, and compare, and then hit play and compare to what I have. So let's start out with 5x minus 2y equals negative 6. All right, so hit that pause button, give it a whirl, see how you do on your own. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by minusing out the 5x to take it away from that side and bring it to the other. That negative sign is married to the 2, so we don't want to forget it. And then again, this we just have to write out, as awkward as it might feel until you get used to it. It's just ugly, but that's algebra. Finally, we want to get rid of the negative 2, and we do that by dividing, dividing, and dividing. These guys cancel, and then when we go to clean it up, a negative 6 divided by a negative 2 will give us a positive 3. And then a negative 5 divided by a negative 2 will give us a positive 5 over 2. There we go. This is our b value. And this is our slope value. Start with the 3. 1, 2, 3. Put a dot. And over here I'm going to analyze the slope. 5 over 2. Top number tells us up or down. It's positive. So we're going to go up 5. Bottom number tells us right or left. It's positive. So we're going to go right 2. Cool. So we go back. Oh, well, you know what? I am not going to be able to fit this. what can I do? If I change this to a -5 over a -2, the way it originally was written, I will be okay, and I can go down 5 and to the left 2, and I will end up in the same area. So let's see, from here I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and left 2, 1, 2. And if you